Hello and welcome to the next part of the video tour of Sculpture by the Lakes. Today I'm just going to concentrate on one sculpture, and it's the one behind me, Search for Enlightenment, which is one of my most recognized pieces of work. It's also situated on Carriageway Drive overlooking Hyde Park and outside the world headquarters of Cirque du Soleil in Montreal. People often ask me how long does it take to make a sculpture, and it's one of those questions which is almost impossible to answer, because the actual making of the sculpture doesn't take that long. It's the idea and the formulation of the idea and the inspiration behind it which takes the time, and that just gradually works. Some pieces, like Serenity, the one in Hyde Park, it was pretty well 6 years between the initial concept and actually finalizing in my mind of exactly how I wanted to make it. They gradually bubble away from the initial thought or having seen something to actually then looking at other cultures, other ideas, other beliefs. So often all those things will combine and just gradually percolate away in my mind. And then one day I'll wake up, and actually it happens unconsciously. If you keep feeding enough information into your mind, your unconscious keeps working on it. And this is why sometimes you wake up with a really good idea. It's because your mind's been working all night, even though you've been asleep. And Serenity happened like that. One day I just woke up and I thought, I know exactly how I want to do this particular sculpture. Search for Enlightenment was a little bit different. The inspiration came when I was in Africa, and I'd actually been to this particular place in South Africa many times. It was in the middle of the Karoo Desert on a mountain called Klipfontein, and the land was owned by a friend, and we used to go out there and visit a lot. And always on the last night we used to take some wine up onto Klipfontein mountain and watch the sun go down, and then just watch the stars. Sometimes you'd see a shooting star. You could track satellites and see them going across the sky as well, the night sky. And there was one night there with some friends, and we knew we were going home the next day. And after the sun went down, they were all looking up at the sky, watching the moon. And I just looked across at them all, and this idea for this sculpture came to me just like that. And it was there immediately in my mind, exactly what I wanted to do. And as soon as I got back home, I went into the studio and made the sculpture. First of all, I made a maquette, a smaller version, and then made it large. And this is the result. The sculpture really is about how insignificant mankind is in the history of the earth. And the story behind the sculpture, or my inspiration, was that I stood on a 250 million year old mountain in Africa and watched the 4.6 billion year old sun descend below the horizon. As the light diminished, the 200 billion stars in the Milky Way began to glow in the night sky. Our galaxy extends for 100,000 light years and is part of a universe that is 93 billion light years across. The universe is over 10 billion years old and consists of hundreds of billions of galaxies. It is at that moment I began to grasp the narrowness of consciousness, the vastness of time, and the transience of humanity. And at this particular time, with the virus spreading and everybody in lockdown, it's quite poignant to think of the transience of humanity, that actually we are an insignificant period of time in the Earth's history. If you put the history of the Earth into a 24-hour clock, humanity didn't emerge until 2 seconds to midnight. That means for 23 hours, 59 minutes and 58 seconds, mankind wasn't there. And so our impact on the Earth, although in our short period, has been reasonably significant. One day humanity will probably die out, but the Earth will continue. And it's interesting to think that actually at this time, with the virus, that the only ones affected by it are humanity. We still walk the dogs, they aren't affected. The wildlife hasn't been affected. It is just mankind